Fring from Breaking Bad? They were popular characters from a series based on drug-making business. In the end, all the drug mafias die. Something similar has happened with El Mencho, one of the world's most wanted drug lords who is dead now. Countries are celebrating. Imagine heralding someone's killing as a victory. Now think what kind of person that must have been that two countries, Mexico and America, are celebrating his killing. Meanwhile, El Mencho's death has resulted in violent clashes being broken out in Mexico. Jalisco new generation cartel's gunmen were seen firing from moving vehicles. This isn't a movie scene, this is the actual situation in Mexico. So who was El Mencho, once a police officer who later became the notorious cartel leader? What was his history and how he forged a drug empire that shook two continents? El Mencho was his nickname. His original name was Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes. He was the head of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG. CJNG was a group responsible for a significant share of narcotics trafficking in Mexico and abroad. His cartel's rise was meteoric. It was achieved through aggression, ambition, brutality, and ruthlessness. According to the US Drug Enforcement Administration, CJNG is heavily involved in the manufacturing, trafficking, and distribution of illicit drugs such as fentanyl, methamphetamine, and cocaine, as well as manufacturing a vast money laundering operation. El Mencho was one of the most wanted criminals in the US and Mexico. There was a $15 million reward for information leading to his arrest. El Mencho's net worth remains unclear. However, in 2019, the US Drug Enforcement Administration suggested it could be more than $1 billion. In 2019, a report by Univision suggested that the DEA and Mexican authorities had seized luxurious cabins built in the Mexican Pacific, more than 100 Japanese restaurants, shopping malls, newspapers, real estate companies, a tequila brand, gold bars with which they laundered money, and even a ranch where there were exotic animals, including a Bengal tiger and endangered birds. But authorities suggest these are only a fraction of his massive wealth. Some estimates suggest that the total assets of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel could be worth tens of billions of dollars. But these numbers remain approximate because the group's involvement in illegal activities makes it impossible for accurate financial calculations. The question now is how El Mencho built such a giant drug empire. El Mencho existed somewhere between a myth and reality. He really appeared in photographs and traveled through territories. El Mencho entered the USA illegally and stayed in California for years. He was eventually arrested on drug charges, but he returned to the US. He was again arrested in 1992, was jailed for 3 years, left on parole, and was deported back to Mexico. This is where he began fully immersing in the cartel business. El Mencho built his power by mastering logistics and not on the back of narcotics production alone. He weaponized supply chains. He created cocaine corridors. He linked coca fields in Colombia to American cities thousands of kilometers away. This corridor entirely shifted drug consumption in America. As per the data, cocaine use in the western US had jumped by 154% since 2019. Fentanyl consumption began declining from mid-2023. Cocaine production in Colombia hit record levels. Street prices fell by $60 to $75 per gram. New users now viewed cocaine as a safer alternative to fentanyl. El Mencho's CJNG capitalized at this moment. Meanwhile, America made overwhelming efforts to combat fentanyl. This helped CJNG capitalize more on cocaine. CJNG quietly expanded its footprint in cocaine trafficking. But the cartel's rise coincided with turmoil inside its most powerful rival, Sinaloa cartel. Violence erupted between the two cartels. Roughly 5,000 people were killed or disappeared, forcing Mexico to deploy 10,000 troops to Sinaloa state. For El Mencho, chaos meant leverage. What came next was an unprecedented shift in criminal balance. CJNG gained access to Sinaloa's cross-border tunnels and smuggled routes into the United States in an arrangement with Senior Lieutenant Ivan Archibaldo Guzman Inarritu. The arrangement unlocked the scale. Cocaine moved from Colombia to Ecuador, crossed the Pacific to Moscow, and flowed through tunnels and highways into US cities. Lower prices drove higher volumes. This allowed CJNG to maintain margins while flooding markets. So how did El Mencho exactly fail? The answer is his girlfriend. She was key to finding him in Tapalpa. Intelligence agencies tracked a close associate linked to El Mencho's partner. The associate took Oseguera's girlfriend to a rural compound near Tapalpa, Jalisco. Forces followed them. When she came out, officials believed the cartel leader was inside. The next day, security forces surrounded the area, launched the operation, and the rest is history. El Mencho's killing marks a significant chapter in the illegal cartel business running in Mexico and beyond. What happens to CJNG now? What happens to cocaine corridors built over the years? What's your take on the whole matter? Let us know in the comments section below.